Okay, can you let us know which city officials are in attendance this evening?
Yes, sir. Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester.
Present.
Law Director Justin Richard.
Present.
Civil Engineer Greg McHugh.
Present.
Community Development Director Samantha Walters.
Present.
And Economic Development Director David May. Is there anyone from administration I missed? That's it, President Pro Tem.
Thank you, and let the record show that all 9 members of the council and the council president are in attendance this evening. Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. You should have received 2 requests under community development in our package that we received from Diane, but we're only going to speak regarding one of the requests. The other one I'm going to do a little bit more work and bring it back to you guys. But the one I'm presenting tonight is request to submit to City Council review and approval is the proposed Community Development Block Grant Program budget for the 2023 program year. This program year runs from July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. We received a list of proposed projects broken down into those activities to be undertaken by the city. I believe Mrs. Samantha Walters is present tonight. If she'd like to come up and give council an overview of this request. It's something that we do every year. The dollar amount may change, the activities may change, but just for her to give us an overview. Thank you, Ms. Walters.
Thank you. Good evening. I just have a couple of notes here to share with you guys. We did receive allocation from HUD towards the end of March, and we have programmed the funding as seen before you. CDBG funding fluctuates. This year we saw a little bit of a decrease, about $10,000 or 1.5% from last year. We are in our 5th and final year of our 5-year consolidated plan, which means our goals have been the same for the past 4 years. This year the goals continue, and then next year we'll develop a new 5-year plan and review the goals and update everything as needed. The comment period on the funding proposal is currently open. We did hold a hearing last Friday, which we did not have any members of the public attend. That's pretty typical from past years. The largest amount of funding set aside is for our housing rehabilitation programs. We continue to operate those programs, and they're very popular. The most things that we've seen are residents in low and moderate income brackets needing new roofs. We've also done a few accessibility projects and plumbing projects. Then we're in the 3rd year of a 3-year neighborhood revitalization project with Habitat. So you'll see $100,000 allocated to them again this year. And we held a service recipient application workshop in January. About 15 agencies attended. We received 12 applications this year, and all applicants are receiving some type of funding this year. The only new one that we had was Central Presbyterian Church for a food service program, and we are suggesting allocating $3,000 towards this project. Other projects include downtown street improvements, Massillon Main Street, target area code enforcement, and planning and administration. And then we intend to submit the action plan with the county on May 17th of this year. If anybody has any questions?
I do. You stated that our funding was decreased this year by 1.8%.
It was about 1.5%.
What is that due to? Why was the funding decreased?
So that all goes off of the census data and the population, the makeup of your city. So when you're getting less funding, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's all formula-based from HUD.
So that's the 2020. Isn't that the 2020 census?
It goes off 2020 census, but American Community Survey data is really where HUD gets a lot of their numbers from.
And is that on an annual basis?
Yes.
So it may change year to year based on that information?
Yes.
Does any other council members have any questions for Ms. Walters? Ms. Hawkinson?
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer.
I was just wondering, for Central Presbyterian Church, it's a CPC door ministry. What does that entail that we're giving them $3,000 to go door to door?
So they do, it's not door to door,
Okay.
that's what they call their program, but you can come to, they call it door ministry, you come to the church, they serve meals, they do like a food pantry, they also do other things that we're not funding, like gas cards and grocery cards and things like that would be eligible under CDBG. But we are proposing assisting with the just the food service program. But that's all at their church, it's just called their door ministry.
Okay, and that's open to everyone. They don't have to be a member of Central Presbyterian to...
Correct.
Maybe.
Anyone else? I have a question, another question.
Sure.
So we added Central Presbyterian Church. Did we remove anyone from that local agency project?
We did. We actually lost two, they've been long-term service advanced, but for good reasons. So the Boys and Girls Club did not apply for funding this year, and I did reach out just to check and make sure that they intended to not apply for funding, and they have decided they've kind of partnered, I guess, I don't know if that would be the term, but with the Legacy Project with Stark County, because the program we were funding was the Be Great Graduate program with the Boys and Girls Club, and Legacy Project is doing a great job mentoring, and I spoke with Vince Pedro, and he said that he would love to continue to work with them and see their program funding increase, so they decided not to apply for funds this year. And then the other subrecipient was Can't Mix Newsboys, and they received a sizable donation from a private donor that is going to sustain them for the next couple of years. So they did not have the need for CDBG funding this year.
I did see that there is emergency language to allow for a timely implementation of the 2023 CDBG program year. So if we, Monday, the following Monday, if I get approval from the remaining committee members, May 1st would be first reading. And the next meeting would be May 15th, but you're stating it's due by May 15th?
No, typically the deadline is May 15th, but they, depending on when they allocate the funding, get the release out, they change the deadline. So the county, we're part of the county consortium, so they intend to submit their plan on May 17th actually, which is when ours will pull in and submit along with it. So we would plan on submitting on the 17th then. But HUD has technically extended the deadline.
Any, Mr. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. I have a question. Do we need to have a public hearing on this before we pass it?
Well, actually, we already did. We held a public hearing. We published it in the Independent, and we published it online. We did it on Friday via Zoom, which is allowed. It's not like a meeting or anything. So we were hoping we'd get more attendance via Zoom. We did it on a Friday afternoon when maybe people would be home, and we did not have any attending.
Well, what I'm saying is I think in the past we've always had a public meeting here at council chambers prior to my off board. Is that going to suffice?
Well, for a public hearing, we would have to give notice, and the deadline is the 17th. So if the Zoom meeting was announced as a public,
It was announced as a public hearing, and that is sufficient.
so Mr. Hurricane, I think we covered that public hearing. Because you decided this year not to hold an in-person meeting for,
Right, we were trying to get more attendance virtually, maybe people that, didn't want to come in person, and if they have any questions. And we also have a comment period going on, which is advertised and open to the public, so.
any other questions?
Councilwoman Creamer, if I may interject. In the past, they did have their public hearing, and it was held in council chambers, and no one ever did show up. So I can verify that they usually would have a public hearing before they submitted the request for legislation to council.
Because that is a requirement
It is.
prior to submitting that. So we covered that requirement.
Yeah, it would be Diane and I.
All right, thank you very much. That's all I have for community development.
Economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. There's no new legislation request tonight. There's an old piece of legislation that we, I don't remember 24-2023. We did table that until the May 15th council meeting. There was some information that was shared that I think we need to digest over the next couple of weeks before that next meeting comes up. One of the things that concerns me is there was a recent filing. Now again, these are allegations, but there was a recent filing in the Stark County Court of Common Pleas regarding an eviction or breach of lease. It looks like the owners or co-owners of this business in February of 2022 signed a 5-year commercial lease. They are alleged to have stopped paying rent right around the 11-month marker of that 5-year lease. That does raise some concerns in my mind regarding the viability and sustainability, since this literally happened within the last couple of weeks, if not months. So we will revisit this on May the 15th. If there's any questions or comments from anyone on council, they can say them now. Mr. Sneed.
Thank you, Councilman Hurricane. If I can address our law director, Mr. Richards, are we allowed to discuss a pending lawsuit that has not been served yet in council?
Chairman, or
Mr. Richards, I'm sorry. Yes.
thank you. As long as we're not party to it, we can certainly discuss. It's public knowledge. It's public record that there has been a lawsuit. So yes, you may discuss the fact that there's a lawsuit.
Okay. It's my understanding that there has been, well, let me put it this way. In their business plan, the main owner, who owns 99% of the company, is Allison Mary. This suit is against Tim Boyle, who is basically the manager for Captain Gunpowder. In this case, against the company, the previous company of Weapons of Mass Defense. They did have a health concern listed in that, where the landlord is basically responsible for fixing that health concern and did not. So it's my understanding that that's why they got out of their contract at that time.
Okay. Like I said, that's an allegation. The court played that out in doing their due diligence. Timothy Boyle and Allison Mary both are listed as co-owners of the business. According to the Ohio Secretary of State, it does not specify their percentage stake, so I don't know that information. I know that they are business partners, and folks are going to make a decision on this one way or another here in a couple of weeks. Are there any other questions or comments? Mrs. Kramer.
I just have a comment. When information came to light that was given to us, emails presented to us, I reached out to Dave mainly because I wanted to fall back and to review the Economic Development Inducement Grant Program. I wanted to see the purpose of this program, this funding, criteria for this funding. And I was unable to be provided any type of information on the purpose and any criteria set forth to provide funding for businesses. So I would like to see something moving forward, something written of what this grant, what this money is for, what the purpose is, and have criteria for applicants. So moving forward, we don't find ourselves in a situation that we're currently in. Yes, we have criteria based on the amount of money set forth for the grants, and that was something years back we as council members at that time wanted consistency. We wanted to know specifically how those dollar amounts were accounted for. So I would like something similar moving forward, so we're not in the same situation we are in now. Thank you.
I would like to call Mr. Mealy up to the podium. I have a couple additional questions regarding that. I know we have an application, we have a scoring sheet that you use. Are there any other guiding documents or rules and regulations that you go by when you determine how to award these funds?
Well, I don't award this
Well,
fund.
you write the legislation request to ask us to
Correct.
approve it, so you recommend.
Yeah, we put forward the application. We asked basically for an application, a business questionnaire that our tax department uses. This year we initiated, based on conversations I've had with you, Mr. Chairman, a business plan that they had to their application. Basically, it's just a new business. We kind of gear it towards small business, new businesses that are coming into the city, and expanding businesses with the current business. We don't have anything in writing that outlines any type of criteria. I don't know if we even had criteria outlined that it would really do anything with regards to the discussion we're having tonight about this particular grant. But we can obviously put something together to make it more formal, but it's just more or less for small businesses that are coming into our city to assist them.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Sheen?
Thank you, Chairman Erkin. Initially, they applied for 15,000. The guideline here states that they can apply up to 10. Is there a reason why it's reduced to 8?
It's based on the scoring sheet that, I can pull a scoring sheet, but it's based on, they can ask for anything they want to ask for.
Is this the scoring sheet you're referring to?
Yeah, correct. And we basically look at different criteria with regards to how much money they invested, has a lot to do with it, but, obviously this is just a recommendation we make to the council. If they feel comfortable with it, they vote for it. If they don't feel comfortable with it, they don't have to pass it, they can change it.
So who changed it from 10 to 8 when they initially asked for 15?
From 10 to 8?
Yeah.
When you say 10 to 8, what are you talking about?
It says new business up to $10,000 because it scored 13 points between 12 and 16, so they're qualifying up to 10. They reduced it, according to the ordinance, it's $8,000. So how did my question is if they asked for 15 but they only qualified for 10, how did it become 8?
It's just up to 10, doesn't it?
Yes.
So if you got 8 up to 10, doesn't mean you have to take 10.
Right. Is there a reason why we didn't give them 10, or is it, I'm asking why there was a reduction if they asked for more?
Well, everybody asks for more money than we normally give them. We do it based on what, like I said, could be what the investment is. We look at different criteria based on what those criteria are and make a recommendation.
So I think that's kind of in line with what Councilman Kramer is asking about the guidelines, because we don't really see that.
You want to see the application?
No, I have the application. I'm wondering why it got reduced from 10 to 8.
It never got reduced because we never, it says up to $10,000, so we can give them up, based on those guidelines, up to $10,000. I think it starts 7,500 up to 10, I'm not sure. I have the,
So, okay. I was just wondering why. All right, thank you.
Mr. Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Hernkeen. I guess the question is why 8 and not 10?
I guess it's just based on, we'd have to look at the different things going on with the application. Like I said, a lot of it has to do with what their investment is, if they're leasing the property. A lot of different factors go into it. It's a judgment call
So,
to a degree.
right, so that's what you're saying is what happened here, is just your judgment.
Basically, a judgment call
Okay.
based on what.
That's what I was trying to get at is.
And I tend to be a little more conservative than other people, but I just think we do it based on what our best judgment is. And like I said, this council can look at those recommendations and do anything it wants, whether it wants to pass it, change it.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Sheen?
Thank you, Councilman Herkin. Have we ever, to the best of your knowledge, have we ever given an inducement grant to a business that had lawsuits against it before?
Not to my knowledge, no.
We've never given an inducement grant to a business that's had a lawsuit against it before.
Not that I'm aware of. But once again, I don't go in looking for lawsuits and stuff like that. I haven't in the past. We haven't had to.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fiona, did you have something?
Just a brief comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Just to let everyone know, Lou Garrett, I believe was his name, spoke to a federal lawsuit as well. I did look that up. It's an FLSA claim, Fair Labor Standards Act judgment. It's public record. I can make that available to everyone as well. That way you're more informed about your decision. So I'll give that to everyone.
If you could provide that to Diana, she can.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maley. Regarding ordinance, Mrs. Harwood Smith?
Yeah, this information that was given to us, it does not involve their current business. It's a previous business by the previous owner, is that correct?
What are you referring to?
This lawsuit that,
No, the pending lawsuit is against one of the current owners.
but it's not against their current business, and he's not.
It's a different business name, but it's still the same individuals, which a person can have 5 different businesses under their name. The fact is that it's the business owners that we're actually, we don't award
But we're not.
funds necessarily to a name of a business. We award it to individuals who are the owners of those businesses. So I think that speaks to the, be careful what I say, but I think it speaks to the applicants as business owners.
But we do, I mean, technically we do award it to a specific business. Someone could have 5 businesses. When would they have to apply for a specific business and they're applying for this new business?
I'm not sure how the auditor writes the check. If it's in the name of the business or if it's to an individual cashes it, that's the owner of the business. And what this says is that the owner, one of the business partners in this enterprise currently has an allegation against them that they reached a commercial lease and owe some money, so. Mr. Lamar.
Thank you, Mr. Hurricane. I guess I have a little bit of a problem with the vetting that is going on here with this CDBG grant, or this inducement grant. I have seen in a little over 3 years, us give these grants to several businesses. We have done no vetting whatsoever on those businesses as a council, other than having the owner come and stand before us and explain a little bit about their business and what they want to do with the money, which this current owner, or this business owner, has also done. Just because a couple of people in the public eye have looked over their public records and things, we have never even made considerations for those things in the past. Okay, so I don't understand why it is such a big deal today with this particular business. The politics aside, I really do not believe it's within the purview of this council to be considering those issues. Because you look at it as far as council is concerned, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. You know, one side is going to say, you're looking at this completely politically and you can't do it that way. The other side's going to say, you know, you're not being fair. It's our tax money. But we've never vetted a business to this extent ever, to give these inducement grants. And I think if we want to start doing that, then in Ms. Creamer's comments, we need to write something to be able to do that. But we don't have that on our law books right now. So I think we're going way beyond our scope as far as these inducement grants go by vetting this particular business down so far. And I think we need to go forward with this as we have in the past. And if we want to make changes to the way we vet these businesses, then we as council need to make those changes going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snee?
Thank you, Mr. Hurricane. I just want to, I wholeheartedly agree with Councilman Lombardi, by the way. But I just wanted to get on the record, and I'm sorry I keep going back to Mr. Richards, our law director. If I can ask one more question.
Of course.
I just want to get your assessment that what I said a couple weeks ago in council during our work sessions, during county council. Council cannot award or deny economic inducement grants based on a business owner expressing the First Amendment right. So therefore, we cannot decide to vote on whether or not they're expressing the First Amendment right. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yes, there is a potential for a lawsuit if you guys were to decide on a constitutional right, whether that's first or second. It's before the council. You guys are stewards of the city's money, so it's an economic choice, not a constitutional one. So you guys look at it similar if you were loan officers at a bank. Is this a good business? Should we give our constituents money to this person? Don't let the politics of it seep into that.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
We're going to wrap this up. Prior to Mr. Lombardi making his comments, I listened very carefully to everything that everyone said tonight, and I don't think anything about politics was mentioned one bit. So, Mr. Lombardi made a statement. Mr. Snee has referred to that now twice. The public may have their comments, and the people on Facebook may want to have their comments, but as far as I'm concerned, everything I've heard tonight has not been about politics, and it's not about that issue to me. This has been tabled until May the 15th, at which point we will have a vote, and I do agree with Mrs. Kramer and Mr. Lombardi. I do intend, moving forward here in the next month or so, to call a meeting of the Economic Development Committee to put some parameters around this program moving forward so people are well aware of what the scope of this program looks like. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Health and welfare,
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Parks and Rec,
I have nothing this evening.
Police and Fire,
Nothing for police and fire, Mr. Woods.
Public Utilities,
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Rules and Courts,
Have nothing this evening.
Streets and Highways.
Nothing new from streets and highways, Mr. Woods.
All right, with finance, we have one new piece, please prepare an ordinance to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the general fund. Special events, the amount of $960 as appropriation is for revenue collected for the from the mayor's breakfast. And it's needed to pay for related expenses. Does anyone have any questions? All right, that is all I have for finance. Now I am aware that it was requested that the executive session be called this evening. However, from my understanding, the preference of most council members is to have executive sessions on voting weeks of council, not on work sessions of this council. So unless a member of council has an objection they want to bring up, it would be my intention to wait until next week to call the executive session. Seeing none, Madam President, do you have any discussions that you want to have this evening? Mr. Hurricane.
May I add something before we adjourn? I just want to make council aware, our codified ordinances say that when a rezoning request is turned down, there's a 12-month wait period before that applicant can reapply for rezoning again through the planning commission. I feel that that time period should be extended, which is why I asked the planning commission at their April meeting to consider giving their recommendation pursuant to the ordinance that we have to get their recommendation on matters changing that code section. I did ask them to change it from 12 months to 24 months. I believe a 2-year period is appropriate, and we can talk about this further. It was discussed at the planning commission meeting this month. There were some suggestions that I'm not sure where they came from, but they did have some suggestions on that, which I really don't want to entertain. I asked Chairman Locke to they table it until next month, and I asked him, please give us, council, your recommendation on that change of 12 to 24 months. That would be on, I think, May the, at which point it would come to council and we can have further questions, and I look forward to sharing my reason why I think a